Some jobs call for blanket insulation to be cemented to the duct with a rubber-type adhesive. Measure and cut the insulation the same as before, then apply a sprayed-on or brush-on a coat of adhesive on the top edge of the duct. No smoking or sparks here, as the wet adhesive is usually flammable. If using a brush, brush strips of adhesive every 6 inches around the duct. Install the blanket on top first, then wrap around, being careful to line up all circumventual joints tightly. Staple and tape all joints as before. In all the methods of installing vapor retarder face fiberglass duct wrap, it is necessary to seal the vapor retarder facing if the duct is to be used for cooling as well as heating. Tape is the most often used method for sealing the seams. Use a pressure-sensitive aluminum foil tape. Peel the contact strip from the tape, then press down over the staples and the facing joint. Seal any punctures of tears in the facing with tape and rub the tape firmly to ensure a complete seal. Always rub the tape wherever it is used. The jacket must be sealed, or moisture condensation during the cooling cycle can condense on the cold surface, drip, and stain the sealing. Plus, a neatly taped job looks better. Some specifications call for sealing the facing tabs with adhesive. Brush adhesive under the facing tab before any staples are applied. Then rub the tabs firmly and daub the staple heads with adhesive. Mechanical fasteners are used on the bottom surface of large ducts to keep the insulation snug. If adhesive is used to hold the insulation on the duct, mechanical fasteners are not necessary. There are many varieties of mechanical fasteners: cemented stick pins, weld pins, or cupped head weld pins. On ducts over 24 inches wide, mechanical fasteners are required to hold the duct wrap securely against the bottom of the duct. Space them 18 inches apart along the length of the duct, and for very wide ducts, 18 inches across the width. The fasteners are installed before the insulation, except for the cupped head welded pins. After they are in place, install a blanket over them, piercing the jacket. Then apply the self-locking washer snugly against the insulation, but not compressing it. Use your nippers to clip off the pin flush with the washer. Seal the washer with mastic or tape. Cupped head pins are pushed through the insulation and welded. Seal the head with mastic or tape. Now, you're an expert at installing ducts with blanket insulation. How about board insulation? Actually, it's not much different, except you cut more pieces and do more fitting. Board insulation is used on ducts exposed to view, so neatness counts more than ever. As before, insulate the main trunk first, except if there are higher ducts. Then do these first. Figure the best use of the 24 by 48 boards to reduce scrap. And for appearance, determine which side of the duct will be the most visual. Then make your board overlaps so you have the least joints on that side. Install the top last, as in most cases you can use scrap pieces from board you cut off when making the sides. Pins are used to hold board insulation on the duct. Measure and mark the pin locations. The pins should be 3 inches from the duct edges, and space them approximately 1 pin per square foot of board. Generally, the minimum number of pins required is 4 for a 2-foot by 3-foot board. Less are required on the top of the duct. Pins should be 1/2 inch longer than the insulation thickness. Add pins for the next course before installing any board. Measure the height of the duct and cut the side pieces. The top and bottom pieces will overlap the sides. Cut the top and bottom pieces and place on the scaffold. Carefully position the side piece over the pins and line it up with the top and bottom duct edges. Then push it partially over the pins. Check the position and adjust if necessary to make sure it is flush with the edges and square. Push it down, install the washers, and cut off the pins with your nippers. Install the bottom piece in the same way, making sure it is square with the duct, then the top. Cut off the pins. Measure tape lengths for the joints. Strip off the release paper and carefully adhere along the joint. Fold neatly and rub it down. Tape the end joints and apply patches to the washers and rub to seal. At hangers, drop them down, insulate and reinstall the hanger. Some specs call for sealing the insulation off at the hanger. When you come to a standing seam or angle, measure from the last board edge to the center of the seam. Mark on the board side and place a straight edge approximately 3/16 of an inch to the left of the mark. Use your knife to cut to the depth of the seam, then move to the right and do the same thing. Strip out this piece and you have a slot to fit over the seam or angle. If the seam or angle is taller than the insulation thickness, butt the insulation board against it and cut a piece wide enough to cover the gap. Be sure to tape the cut edges of the board down to the insulation. As with duct wrap, seal board edges off at termination points, such as air handling units and diffusers. Some jobs call for corner beads to make neat straight edges. Tape the bead carefully and rub the tape to smooth and seal. If the specs call for a really smooth job, the appearance can be improved by countersinking the clips and allowing the tape to bridge over the clip. Do this by running the point of your knife around the clip. Push it down, cut the pin off flush, and tape smoothly over the washer. Radius or sweep L's are not as difficult as they look. Install pins all around. Measure the width and length and cut a board or boards, if the L is really big, to cover the top and bottom. Follow our expert installer along as he insulates this L. Top and bottom first, then cutting to fit the heel curve and the throat. To insulate the heel, it is necessary to make V relief cuts in the board to allow it to conform to the curved surface. Use your knife to make V grooves in this piece. Many sweep L's also have a curved throat. To insulate, slice the insulation and reverse curve the board when applied. For this L throat, position the pins, cut the pieces to fit, trim, and tape all seams. So now you know how to insulate ducts. It's not hard when you know how. And now you should be able to tackle any that come along. This instructional video is produced by the National Insulation and Abatement Contractors Association in cooperation with participating members of the Thermal Insulation Manufacturers Association. It is one of a series of video training films developed as a visual partner to NIAC's Insulation Craft Training Program.